Talking with the experts.
Episode 267 with Sam Kamani.
Yeah, sure. So let me give you an example. There are about 3.2 billion gamers in the world. That's nearly half of all the population. No one had to force these people. There was no mandate saying that you have to sit down and game every day for 2 hours. In fact, you have to peel people away from gaming, and the average age of a gamer is probably around 32 years or something like that. So it is not what you think. The biggest demographic of gamers are, I think, women in their 30s. It's all mobile games because they game on mobile, because that's where they have time in between, in between cooking, looking after kids. It might be some sort of a game on mobile, but that's just as an example. The reason people play games is because they have intrinsic motivation. No one in the world had to force anyone to play games. There's no school, there's no government saying that you'll be doing this from now on every day, but people do it because it is fun.
Are you a non-techie, introverted author, speaker, coach, consultant, or entrepreneur wanting to make an impact through podcasting? In 30 days working one-on-one with you, I can show you how to build authority and credibility for your business. I'm inviting you to shift your thoughts about podcasting and allow yourself to expand into the next level of your life and business by joining the Podcast Wizard 30-day program as I help you take your podcast from idea to launch. Find it at rose-davidson.com under the Work With Me tab.
Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hello and welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners, and you can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. Today, my guest is Sam Kamani. Sorry, I beg your pardon. And he is currently in New Zealand. His business is Web3. And we're going to be talking about whatever comes up in our conversation today, because we have nothing set in concrete. And Sam is the founder and host of the Web3 with Sam Kamani podcast. It's a top 20 Web3 podcast globally, so that's very good. He is also a serial entrepreneur with 2 exits in the past. Since graduating in computer science, Sam has worked in 3 continents and continues to work with startups in New Zealand and in the Silicon Valley. Besides advising startups, Sam has also published 2 books, the first being The 30-Day Startup, which became an instant Amazon bestseller, and Business in the Time of Corona, where he shares how to pivot in times of disruption. Welcome to the podcast, Sam, and it's such a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you so much. It's great to be on your podcast and looking forward to our conversation today.
Perfect. Well, we might talk a little bit about your books. How did the 30-Day Startup become such an instant success?
So that's an interesting one. So we wrote it in 30 days because we wanted to be, first of all, true to the mission and practice what we preach. So between me and my co-founder at that time, we help people build minimum viable products. So build things really, really fast. And one of the message was that, you don't have to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars or millions of dollars building a tech startup. You can get started for really, really small amounts, or even for, under $1,000 and, or even nothing, and basically build, like, say, a prototype or a minimum viable product and get it out in the market, get some proof whether people even want that thing, and find basically problems to solve. And so that's all we said. And then we just put it out on the Amazon. We did no marketing. We have done $0 of ads, and over 15,000 people bought the book. And so you're just like super surprised that how did it happen? And it was just sort of word of mouth. So we just made it like free for the first 3 days or first few days. And then a lot of people started downloading it because apparently there was a massive need where people wanted to build something without spending, or not everyone had those sort of financial resources, or not everyone does manage to raise millions of dollars of funding. Those are the rarity or an exception where people raise those sorts of money. Most people just want to get started. They have an idea, they want to build something. So that's what we wrote the book for. And so we wrote it really quickly. We just put it out. So book, we did get it through a proofreader, but everyone we pushed to get it to that 30-day timeline. So yes, does it have mistakes? It absolutely has probably some minor spelling mistakes here and there or grammatical mistakes, but that is the point, that you don't have to be perfect. The thing is, if we had waited for perfection, those 15,000 people would not have read it in the first month or when it was released. So the idea is to get the thing out there as soon as possible, and you can always perfect it. We can always do another edition. We can always write another book. You can always do other things. So that's how it all started.
That's a great way to start too. Me being mostly a perfectionist, I wouldn't put anything out that's got an error, but then that's my problem, because things don't get done because it's got to be absolutely perfect, and I keep saying that I've got to be imperfectly perfect, and I need to change that sort of mindset for myself, because and the book sounds like it was really something that was needed. A lot of people don't have a lot of finance behind them to start a business, and they think that they need, thousands and thousands of dollars, when actual fact they could start it on a shoestring and progress and build their business or their company up to to that multi-million-dollar mark. But it just takes perseverance and dedication, I think.
Yes. Yep.
And the second book is called Business in the Time of Corona. And the title really doesn't need any explanation, but how did that book go?
Yeah, so that one I wrote just documenting sort of my experience with dealing with other businesses on how they managed to pivot when change happened so suddenly in March of 2020, February and March of 2020, and what I saw. And so basically I wrote a book on how people can pivot, how people can change direction really fast, so they don't go bankrupt pretty much, so they can continue to employ their employees and what they can do. So that pretty much, once again, no marketing done, just wrote it, left it up there, and once again people were quite focused in just living at that time, just surviving. So of course people weren't looking for things like that. Education and improving themselves was not at the forefront of the readers' minds at that time. It was just surviving at that time, because people were dealing with the first shock of lockdowns and stuff. No one ever knew how to respond to that sort of things. And I'm sure you're in Australia and I'm in New Zealand. We have faced some of the most strict lockdowns back in 2020. So that didn't have that sort of same level of response as the tech startup one, which was written in 2019. So timing definitely makes a huge difference.
Well, that's how this podcast came to be. The pandemic hit, and then in July, in 2020, I just had a thought, why don't do a podcast? I could see a lot of small businesses were closing down and not, using their skills to turn around their business and make it into something that was online. I mean, it didn't really matter if you had a service or a product. You could change the way that you did things to better navigate the pandemic at the time and all the lockdowns, and so that's why I started the podcast. I thought, well, why don't I speak to other business owners who have made a success of themselves or have change the way they do things so that they can still continue with their business. So yeah, that's how it's progressed. So yeah, it's very interesting that you wrote a book along those very similar lines. Yeah. Now you are a prestigious TEDx speaker, and you manage and secure your blockchain economy. How does that go?
Yeah, so basically, I speak at quite a few events. Just next week, I'm speaking at 2 events. One in Florida, and another one, I think it is in Atlanta. They are, of course, remotely, because traveling is still, even though they are physical events, I will be going on there through Zoom. It is still, because traveling is not the easiest still. Yeah, I do speak at quite a few events on a weekly basis, and most of them are around blockchain, around Web3, around NFTs, metaverse, and crypto sort of technology and security and those sort of things. At TEDx last month I spoke was about gamification. So how you can use gamification to increase engagement, to increase sort of user retention, and to promote your product, or you can use it in any sort of a day-to-day activity. So that's what my talk was about, on how you can use gamification in world of finance, or at your home, or anywhere, even like dealing with your kids and stuff. So that was what my TED talk was about. Currently, I full-time, my main thing is I work as a chief strategy officer for a company called Moonstream.to. So it's an American sort of a startup where we provide analytics for, it's a very sort of a technical niche thing. We provide analytics for on-chain NFTs in sort of blockchain-based games. So and they make sort of and we make smart contracts for games who have NFTs integrated in their own economy, and we've had over $1.5 billion of transactions done on the sort of the smart contracts that we have helped games develop and stuff. So yeah, that's what my day job is. So I do speak at quite a few events regarding NFTs, regarding metaverse, and all those sort of things. And that's why I have a podcast called Web3 with Sam Kamani podcast, where I talk about all these sort of things. And what I do is I basically break down these topics to explain in a very sort of simple language for someone who's not coming from software engineering background. They can even understand what are these sort of things and how they work, and how they can add value to their business or whatever they are doing.
That's really interesting. I would like to learn a bit more about this gamification that you were talking about. Can you explain what that is, and how people can use that in their business?
Yeah, sure. So let me give you an example. There are about 3.2 billion gamers in the world. That's nearly half of all the population.
Have you been thinking about starting a podcast? You can share your knowledge and expertise with people globally. Create original content that is completely unique from anything else out in today's market, not just in terms of style, but also perspective. And when we talk about revenue generating potential, well, let me tell you, it doesn't stop there. The time to start is now. You know that you should be doing it. However, many people are reluctant because they don't know how to produce it or what tools they need to do their podcast. Please feel free to email me at guest@talkingwiththeexperts.com today, and let's talk about how I can help you to build authority and credibility for your business through podcasting. Remember, don't wait for the opportunity, create it.
All the population, no one had to force these people. There was no mandate saying that you have to sit down and game every day for 2 hours. In fact, you have to peel people away from gaming, and the average age of a gamer is probably around 32 years or something like that. So it is not what you think. The biggest demographic of gamers are, I think, women in their 30s. It's all mobile games because they game on mobile, because that's where they have time in between, in between cooking, looking after kids. It might be some sort of a game on mobile, but that's just as an example. the reason people play games is because they have intrinsic motivation. No one in the world had to force anyone to play games. There's no school, there's no government saying that you'll be doing this from now on every day, but people do it because it is fun. So how can we incorporate this fun? How can we incorporate the same mechanics into day-to-day things to make them more fun, to develop that intrinsic motivation, so it doesn't feel like work, so it feels like game. And so basically it was, of course, it's quite a like nearly 18 minutes speech on gamification. So I can just give you just an example of gamification and few things you can do. One of that is create a sense of friendly competition. So because people like to compete against each other, it's just like in Australia, they watch a lot of footy. It's like if the footy always had everyone as a winner, no one is ever loser, no team, every team wins or watching Olympics and everyone in 100-meter wins race. There is no person who comes second, no person who comes third. It will no longer be fun. If every country wins everything, it would be meaningless. It would be the engagement won't be there, whether it is football or rugby or basketball. So having a sense of friendly competition helps. And you could use this this is just one thing, that you could do 10 different things to increase engagement levels. To give you an example of how it can be used in any environment is that So I've got like 3 kids, and Toby who's 8, Xavier who's 6, and so they have school in the morning. And morning is a busy time for us. So what I've seen lately is my wife Amanda is using, not even unknowingly, she uses gamification at home. And what she does is that she challenges Toby and Xavier to do a race to see who gets ready first, and then people are in teams. And so Amanda is in team with a 1-year-old, and she has to get dressed and dress the 1-year-old, and then Toby and Xavier has to get dressed as well for school and see who does it first. So if Toby gets dressed, then he goes and helps Xavier because he wants his team to win. And it's like it gets really noisy at home, but it makes it fun, and they find it fun, and they don't even realize it that they are doing this. Because before this, I had to nag them that, get dressed, it's school time. And they wouldn't do it because they feel like they're being told. But now they feel like they're playing a game, and then they do it. So there's just
that's a great tip.
Yeah, that's just one example, but it could be used in any different scenario at work, at home. But the thing is that it has got to be made that it is really fun. Because if you make it as a rule or if you force it, it no longer stays fun. So and that is something that you have to try it multiple times in different permutations and combinations and see what works for your team. It could be done in businesses, it could be done everywhere, in any scenario. So yeah.
How interesting. I should have tried that when I had my kids when they were little. Would have been much better than me nagging and being the mother from hell.
Oh no, everyone has those moments, and you just try different things and see what works. But gamification absolutely works. It is a little bit more work initially, but then you do end up with, say, if you are trying it in your business, you do end up with more engaged audience or a more engaged customer base or a client base. And this was just one of it. Competition was just one of it. There are other ways to do it. There are other things that you can do to gamify. You can use collaboration, and you can use some a ranking points. So a lot of things like loyalty programs are you can say, part of gamification that companies do. That is just to increase repeat purchase behavior or repeat engagement when it's an online platform. But a lot of companies, they have someone who looks after this a thing, or who thinks about this repeat engagement type of a thing, just like games do. And games are really, really good. at this sort of thing to create these sort of systems that they have.
Find your TED talk and listen to it. I think it'd be really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Just search for my name on TEDx or TED, and then you'll find it. Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'll do that after we finish here today. Sam, as far as the small business is concerned, how can one start a business, and change the mindset from I need X amount of dollars to be able to launch my business, to the mindset of, I've got this idea, let's just get going and the details will work out, in the end?
Yeah, sure. That's a very, very good question, something that people can really use. And the first thing I say is that you need to learn how to solve problems for people. So it all comes down to it. And the example I like giving people is, say my hair are on fire, and Rose, you are selling fire extinguishers, and you're standing in front of me. I am going to buy that fire extinguisher no matter the cost. It will not be a hard sell for you. Let's just say you will not have to convince me. And because you solved my problem, and that is a hair on fire problem. So what I say to any entrepreneur or any founder is that, look for those hair on fire problems and solve those. It's as simple as that. Money will come, money will appear, people will support you if you are solving something that is like a hair on fire problem. And it's like, I have not met anyone who says that they have no problems. Everyone around you, they have some problem or another. And then finding out that, is it just a sort of a minor inconvenience, or is it really a hair on fire problem? So find those and share your ideas, share how you intend to solve it, and see if people support you with that. You do not, and the other thing is, you do not need a complete solution. You have to go and use on internet, it's called something like Wayback Time Machine. You have to go and see what the first version of Amazon, one of the largest companies in the world, look like, how their web page looked like on day one, or how Airbnb's web page looked like on day one. I mean, day one, they didn't even have a website. They just had an air mattress. That's where the name comes from, and in their sort of attic, and they just sold it to friend or someone who wanted to stay for five nights, and they just saw that, okay, we can do this. And so, you don't even need all the sophistication that you think you need. You can just get started without pretty much funds. You do need however, you do need a problem that you can solve. They solved the problem of people who could not find any accommodation in any hotels anywhere, and they solved it. So it was a hair on fire problem for people that they solved in a very manual way. You can solve it in a very manual way. You do not even need a website in most cases, let alone a mobile app and a whole infrastructure and everything, because people are jumping like 20 steps ahead. You need to solve one person's problem first and then go from there.
Really sound advice, Sam. Thank you so much for sharing that. But what do you do for the overthinkers like me who, when I started, I did go in boots and all, but then I started to overthink things and thinking, well, if I did this, and then, you just try all sorts of things and nothing's working, how can you change that around to, stop overthinking and just go in boots and all?
Yeah, I think I do admire that you do try different things. So that is the right strategy to do things, and that is that you do try. The key is the action and not just thinking. You are taking action, and that's why you continue to move forward, and that's why you have reached to this point. If you never took action, you would not be where you are. Let me give you a statistic about podcasting. So there are about 2.5 million podcasts on Apple Podcast. And I think something around like 80% have only one episode. About 80% have only 3 episodes, and about like 25 to 50% or something like that have only one. So if you reach episode number 20, you are in the top 1% of podcasts in the world, which is really crazy to think, because most people don't take action. They have ideas, they have dreams, but there is no action, or there is no implementation. So as long as you keep taking action, you will keep moving. That is the only thing that, is like, how much energy are you spending on thinking of things, and how much energy and time are you spending on implementing those things. So that is the key ratio to look at. The reason why you have reached to this point, the reason why you got so many downloads, is because you kept going. You didn't stop after 1 or 3 episodes. And that's pretty much the difference between you and all those, 2 million other podcasts which stopped between 1 and 3 episodes.
Well, your episode number 267, so that's not too bad.
Yeah. And that took work. How much work? Like, if you add all the number of hours between editing, liaising with guests, promoting everything for all these episodes, you have spent thousands and thousands of hours on this. Because for some people, even one episode can take up to 10 to 15 hours. The whole process from start to finish, to promoting it on social media, sharing it, everything. And you multiply that, by 260 plus episodes. So that is how much time you have spent taking action and not just dreaming about it. So that is where your progress has come from the action.
I love my podcast. I love meeting all the people that I've met. It's like absolutely incredible. They all have different stories. I don't think I've met 2 people that are, exactly the same or even similar in what they do. So it's been quite a journey, and I've absolutely loved every minute of it. But anyway, okay, so we've talked about your books, we've talked about your TED Talks. Sam, do you have anything that you'd like to share with our audience, some tidbit of wise wisdom, or, or something else that you'd like to share?
I think I'll just keep going on the same direction as what we've been talking about, and that is just to there has got to be a point where you have got enough knowledge. Now just go and implement it, just go and take some action on it. So whether it is creating content, whether it is jumping in the world of sort of Web3, and if you think you want to learn more about Web3 and how it is the next sort of version of internet, and the new way of how things will be done on internet, then go and check out my podcast. Just look for my name, or Web3 with Sam Kamani on any audio platform, and you'll find my podcast, where I talk about everything to do from NFTs, metaverse, tokenization, decentralization, crypto, blockchain, all those sort of things, and how they can benefit you, and what sort of opportunities exist in that space. So that's about me.
Terrific. And they can find you at samkamani.com if they want to work with you or to contact you in any way.
Absolutely, yes. Or my handle is Sam Kamani on nearly every platform. So whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter or TikTok or anywhere, you'll find me as that.
And have you got another book in the pipeline?
I want to write one on Web3. So I have started sort of writing one on Web3 and how Web3 is going to change the internet and the whole sort of internet economy. So, yeah.
So we'll look forward to that then.
Thank you.
All right. Sam, thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure learning from you. And I hope that you'll come back again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Rose.
Thanks, Sam.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.